Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to a brand new episode of Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, my editor and good friend, Rex. How are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing pretty good. Tired, but pretty
Yeah,
good.
you were up till like 4 in the morning last night,
Yeah,
and I
that's
told you to
that.
go to bed.
Sleep is for the weak. I'm sure you know that very
Uh,
well.
I have no comments. Totally not like the Gojira episode was at 5 in the morning after staying up all night. Good
Yeah,
times, good
but in this
times.
case, I was watching Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's why I was up for so long.
Was it any good?
Yeah, it was all right. I enjoyed it.
I I don't know if I'll have 4 hours to do whatever I want with. Um, we'll have to wait and see. But
Yeah,
I really want to see it. I hope it's good.
yeah,
I
it,
just
it is.
I got one problem.
Hmm.
It's in a 4.3 aspect ratio.
Oh,
I I can't. No, it's stupid. It's so pretentious. It's like, what are you trying to be in an old movie? Like, God, 4.3 aspect ratio.
that. That one. Most streaming services, I know mine did this, where they had an actual disclaimer before the movie about the aspect ratio. That is
Why?
hilarious to me. That is absolutely hilarious to me. It's like
Literally,
people have never seen a movie in 4:3
yeah, and
anymore.
it's weird because like there are so many movies in 4.3. Like
Yeah,
literally had a generation of people, multiple generations of people who grew up on box TVs. I did. I'm used to the 4.3 aspect ratio.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
it's
mean,
weird.
for a
All of a
modern
sudden,
movie, sure, it's a little different, but it's not a detriment to the film in any way. It's not even slightly a problem.
yeah, and didn't the Lighthouse with
Yeah,
William Defoe, wasn't that in 4.3?
I believe so.
And in
I
black
believe
and
so,
white.
yes.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna start criticizing black and white movies now?
No, because people didn't see The Lighthouse.
That's true. But didn't it win an Oscar?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it'll get mainstream attention.
That's true. I still need to watch it. I've heard it's
Same here.
actually pretty good.
Same here. But yeah, I digress.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Justice League today. That's all we're going to be talking about.
Yes, on this
Um,
episode of Kaiju Conversation, we're talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League.
yes, it's going to be 5 hours, and we're going to present this in 16-bit audio, so you can hear it, and we can be pretentious. So
Yes, yes,
I hope everybody enjoys this next few minutes, or hours, because we're doing 5 hours of this.
yes. A few
Yes.
minutes.
It's going to feel like a few minutes because, with our 16-bit
Oh, I
audio,
assure you, when it gets to editing, it's not going to feel like a few minutes.
no comment. So, yeah, so anyway, we're talking about Aquaman. That had a kaiju
Oh,
in it, so
yes,
that's what we're actually talking about
yes,
today. Aquaman
yes,
and its politics. It's politics about capitalism, and it's and commercialism. It's a very deep film.
yes.
It deserved a
Literally,
billion
literally.
dollars.
It
Yeah.
is literally
Oh
quite deep.
no. Oh no. No.
You walked into
No.
that pun.
You mean I drowned in that?
God damn it. Okay, I swam into that one too.
Oh, come on. Stop being a clown.
No, Batman.
Oh no.
Okay, so before we get too sidetracked,
Yeah, so what's new with you outside of Zack Snyder's Justice League? Any Tokusatsu?
I've placed a few orders for some. Media Blaster's release of some Toho films, Varan, Dogora, and Frankenstein vs. Baragon.
Hmm.
Even though I've seen Varan before, I'm excited to actually own it on physical media, and
Did
I look
you
forward to seeing Frankenstein vs. Baragon.
did you by any chance order the Real Vault or Synergy Entertainment DVD for the English version?
No, I have not.
Okay. Because that's from what I've gathered, Varen's English version is public domain, much like Gamera the Invincible, and
Yeah.
so those are the only two ways to get it official, quote unquote, officially on DVD. Um, Now, if you ask me, get the real Vault version. It looks better, and there's no watermark in the bottom right-hand corner.
A
Um,
watermark on a DVD.
Synergy Entertainment is very proud of its movies. It also released
Yes.
Revenge of Dr. X, a co-production with Toei. So,
Hmm.
fun little factoid there.
Yes, they're very proud of the movies that they definitely produced.
Yes, very much so. I feel like we sound Denside saying that. But what else? Anything else? You can't go wrong with Media Blasters, especially the
Yeah,
Toho stuff.
yeah. I like with the Varan one. I got that mainly because I wanna see that the sort of recreation of the TV card with even with all those like missing scene cards, just
Hmm.
out of the curiosity of
Hmm.
what Varan could have been like.
Hmm.
So
Which,
yeah.
so, no, actually, I'll get into that here in a little bit later on because it actually relates to our
Hmm.
main topic of today's episode that I learned today. Um,
Interesting.
but anything else? Media Blasters outside of that?
I do have Godzilla Art of Destruction book that should be coming tomorrow. It could have
Nice.
came today, but it didn't.
Mm,
But
it's
it was expected for tomorrow anyways, so
I see.
not a big deal.
It's
Yeah,
a cool
so
book.
yeah, I'm mainly getting it because I've seen it sort of the price was fluctuating a bit, so might as well just get it for a decent price before it fluctuates to something not so nice.
Right? Like the King of the Monsters one, which has gone up
Yeah,
recently.
I regret not buying that one. Uh, it's nearly 2 years ago. God.
It's been 2 years. Well, I actually got the Kong Skull Island art book today from
Yeah,
Amazon. That was
nice.
actually really cool.
Yeah, I'm probably going to get that one soon too. And of
Now,
course, the other upcoming art book.
which I really want to, for once, I want to talk about that movie. So towards the end of this episode, we're actually going to address that film.
Well, yeah, it is
Um,
kind of relevant.
yeah, unfortunately. Um, but I will say, the introduction that Jordan Vogt Roberts wrote for Skull Island does reference 1933. However, I still stand by my argument that Kong Skull Island and Godzilla vs. Kong are not legally King Kong movies. And there's actually evidence to support that, I will add. Tons of it.
Hmm.
Um, but that's a rant and potential article in Kaiju Ramen for another day. So, anything else, Rex, or do you want me to go ahead and share some of the stuff that I acquired recently?
Yeah, I think you should go on because I honestly
Mm,
haven't done as much as or bought as much as I wish I could have.
yeah. So I guess I'll go ahead and get this out of the way now. I purchased some movies off of Amazon, and I went off of my master list of Tokusatsu films that I acquired through a good friend, or not good friend, but a good intelligent person. that I'd like to talk to in the future about Tokusatsu.
Hmm.
And so I ordered Numari, new Book of Spawn, a late 2000s film distributed by Switchblade Pictures here in the United States.
Yeah.
I ordered a few other films. I'm trying to think here, what else did I purchase? There was one more. What was there's one I'm going to get to, but I want to mention that one last because of what it is. I should really pay attention moving forward what I purchase on Amazon. Let me just check my trusty old orders. Oh, and I got Assault Girls on Blu-ray. I did have the DVD, but I realized there's a Blu-ray, so I purchased that too, just so I can have the best quality picture. Um, oh,
Speaking of the devil, guess what? Literally just arrived right now.
oh, really?
Yes. So,
Ah,
so I'll be right back.
okay. So we're going to be waiting on Rex while he go gets his um book. So while he's gone, I'll go ahead and tell everybody. I accidentally bought two softcore pornos. They're Japanese and they are tokusatsu. It's called Cat Girls and Dimensional Traveler Odyssey Trita. I didn't realize what I purchased until I read the description and they were at my house. So I don't know what to do. I'm just going to embrace the fact that I bought two pornos. Um, and maybe I'll cover them on a future episode of the podcast or send them to a good friend of mine, Nathan Marchand, who's currently on Ogasawara Island uh, at the Monster Island Film Vault. His birthday's coming up, so I might send that to him. He always gets a real kick out of stuff like that. Right, Nathan? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. That
So,
was hilarious timing.
so Rex just got the Godzilla Art of Destruction book
Yes, I did.
live on air too. You see, it works out perfectly.
Just what was that timing? Just right after bringing it up, it shows up.
The power of Godzilla compels the
Compels
postal
Amazon.
services. Yes.
I just I'm almost in shock just because of that. That. Oh my god! Wow, that goddamn timing. I'm genuinely in shock by that.
hmm I will say, out of all the art books, the one I enjoyed the most was probably Kong Skull Island.
Really?
I its art I think is the most true to because 2014's is more just like, hey, here's the steps we took to making the movie. Here's just like concept art of scrap designs,
Yeah.
and no concept art of the final product. Or there is, but it's not as extensive. And King of the
Hmm.
Monsters is very flamboyant, very artistic, very over the top. Which
Hmm.
it looks
Like the
cool,
movie.
yeah, but I think it comes across as a little sloppy, all things considered. But the Skull
Hmm.
Island one looks really cool, and it seemed
Hmm.
like Roberts really liked he really wanted to write a foreword for the film. Gareth kind of just was like, "Oh, here's a little bit." Doherty was like, "Oh, hey, my name is Michael Doherty. Everything I've told you on Twitter, I'm repeating here." And then
Hmm.
Roberts was like, I have a whole lot to say. Here it is. Enjoy all this. I love King Kong, all this stuff. Oh my god, I love Thomas Sowell, the legendary. Oh, so good. It's just like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I definitely look forward to getting the Skull Island one whenever I get the whenever I do have the money for it. Probably soon.
Buy it.
I'll get it soon.
Yeah. But going back, so I did get Kong Skull Island's art book. I also watched Kong Skull Island again today. that movie, the final fight with the skull crawlers, I forgot how well like choreographed that was. That final
Mm,
fight's actually really good. There's some awesome camera shots in there.
yeah. It's been a while since I've seen Skull Island. I'll have to rewatch it in like a couple days because I'm seeing GBK in
GVK.
about 4 days from now. So
Yeah. And honestly, I after this rewatch, it depends on how I feel about King of the Monsters next week.
Mm,
King of the Monsters might have just lost its number one spot on my Monsterverse. 'Cause
yeah.
I forgot how good Skull Island was. Like its
Mm,
camera work is really good. I love the cinematography is just beautiful in that film. I
mm.
love the colors. The color grading in that film was phenomenal.
Yeah, it had good color grading.
More so than all the Godzilla ones, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked it. Very happy
Yeah,
with
I,
it.
I have an interesting thing with Skull Island where it's like I saw it in theaters, absolutely
Mhm,
loved it, saw it on home media, didn't care for it for some reason. Like it just bored me. But then when I watched
mhm,
it again some months later, I was like, oh my god, I love this again.
mhm.
I need to see it once more to have a full opinion, though, I'd say.
Yeah. But I will say I noticed upon watching Kong Skull Island, and I watched 2014,
Yeah.
Brightened a few weeks ago. Yeah, I watched 2014. I didn't watch the black screen. I promise, guys. Um,
Unlike
I
the last time I watched 2014.
I was both of them. I was surprised. 2014 did not feel like a your typical Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
Um, it was a little weird. It felt right for once.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, though I will say after Bryan Cranston dies, it's kind of ruined.
I don't think it's a case of it. I think it's more of a case of 2014 doesn't feel like a blockbuster.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't feel like a blockbuster. That's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like Gareth didn't know what he was doing, but that was a good thing. It
Yeah.
it, it was good that he didn't know how to do a blockbuster because it came out really well done.
Yeah.
Even though the characters are very boring, and honestly, I couldn't tell you anything special about Ford. He's like
But
that side character in any movie with the military that dies like three-fourths of the way through the film, and we're supposed to feel bad, but we don't
yeah.
know a thing about him. He's
Yeah.
like
That's
every other character in Kong Skull Island outside of John Goodman, Brooks, Samuel Jackson, Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, and John C. Riley, and the young kid and the other two military guys. Ford's basically all the other people that died throughout the movie that were just like, oh,
well, it's
okay.
like that guy who sacrifices himself to this skullcrawler.
Hmm.
Or no, the guy who gets eaten, but with
Yeah,
even less depth.
yeah. At least with the guy that got killed by the Skullcrawler after trying to kill the Skullcrawler, we had enough time to feel little bad for his teammates for losing him. The other
Yeah.
guy is just like, oh, he's gone now. Dear Billy,
Yeah.
your dad's dead. He lived a fine life.
Hmm.
Um, Go run off into the playground, have fun.
Yeah. We'll
It
never tell
was,
you how he died. So.
yeah, it just
Military secrets.
it was stupid.
Yeah.
Which that's also, I will say that's one issue with Skull Island. What happened to the military guys in Marlow?
Yeah.
Because Comrade and
I
Weaver
mean,
were
well,
not.
to be fair, they do show what happens to Marlowe.
Yeah, but what happened before he could get there? Because
Mm,
they obviously would have been like, you can't say a single thing because he's been on
yeah.
the island for 30 years. He probably knows a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But and I will say that end where they show him. that's unexpected because he's not your main character. You know,
Yeah.
you'd think they wouldn't do that. But that
Hmm.
was a great way to end the main
Oh
film.
yeah. It it's just a perfect resolution to his character, and it kind of makes you wonder why isn't he the protagonist at some points.
Sure. Yeah, so guys, this is a Kong Skull Island episode now. Um,
No, no, no,
the
no, no. It's a MonsterVerse episode. This podcast is turning entirely to the MonsterVerse.
I also bought the Blu-ray Invisible Man Appears in Invisible Man versus the Human Fly from
Nice.
Arrow. It was really cool. They're the oldest tokusatsu that's still intact in its complete form.
You said earlier we sounded like we're dead inside, but now you really do sound like you're dead inside.
I was just reconsidering my life decisions and what happened to this podcast and why it turned into a MonsterVerse podcast.
You're welcome.
Hey, what can I say except
You're
you're
welcome.
welcome? And Disney has now copyrighted this episode of Kaiju Conversation.
No, 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 no. They bought the whole podcast.
You know, on Twitter, and you can probably find this on the podcast Twitter feed.
Yeah.
There was a question, fill in the blank Disney bought, and then it said, let your keyboard decide what goes next. And mine was Disney bought the podcast. So, yeah, I guess Disney did buy our podcast.
I mean, hey, for you, free money.
Maybe I can just be employed by Disney and still talk about kaiju. I don't know where we're going anymore.
Yeah, we should probably get on to the main subject, really.
Yeah, I'll just briefly go over the last things. I watched the Mystery Science Theater episode of Gamera, the Giant Monster. I watched
Oh,
Solar Crisis, and I rewatched a 1962 film called King Kong versus Godzilla.
never heard of it. I don't know what it is. What's it about?
So it's about this. So there's a Japanese version. It's all subtitled, and what it's about this guy who's named Taco, like Taco Bell. Um, and he gets his people to go to this island full of half-naked people who sing to lightning. They're like, they sing and they dance to lightning. And then a giant octopus with multiple tentacles comes out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden the lightning and then rah, and then out from his cave Kong's voice did ring. Seemed he's troubled by just one thing. He tore down his barrier, shook his fist, and said, Octopus, I'm going to throw you now. And then the octopus was rocking. He was digging the destruction. Kong came up and grabbed him and threw him away. The octopus left, and Kong got drunk to say. Well, meanwhile, a giant lizard from the icebergs of the Arctic comes out, and he's like, ah, fire breath and roaring, and he goes to Japan, specifically Hokkaido, um, and the pharmaceutical company, remember that taco guy I was talking about?
Yeah.
He got the monkey on a wooden raft and was
Monkey Man.
bringing the monkey to Japan. And then they blow him up because they have dynamite on the raft. And then the monkey swims to Japan. And then the lizard and monkey
This is a really
fights.
long-winded summary of a movie.
And then monkey and lizard fall into ocean. And there's an alternate ending where the lizard win and monkey win.
Lies.
Famous
Lizard
Monsters
lies.
of Filmland moment.
Yeah.
It's a great magazine. Check it out.
Yeah, there's some good there's some good interviews with Nakajima and Satsuma in there, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah. But anyway, yes, so today we are discussing King Kong versus Godzilla, and there is my really
Yes.
horrible summary
Long-winded
of the film.
summary.
Yes. So, to get things started here, I guess we can talk about our history with the film.
Sure.
That's just something I like doing as always, is just so you can kind of get where we fell in love with this film. So,
Sure.
Rex, if you want to go ahead and go, we can talk about your history with this grand movie.
All right. So, I guess I'll start with when I first got into Godzilla. I sort of started with a mix of eras. My first four Godzilla films were Godzilla Final Wars versus Gigan, uh, Ibara Horror of the Deep, and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. So one of each era. This was like right before 2014 came out. And then as time went on, I saw pretty much all the Millennium films, most of the Heisei films, and that was about it. And Gigan and Ibra were about it for all I had with Showa until some years down the line where I got King Kong vs. Godzilla, the Universal cut on Blu-ray, and I watched it, and honestly, I really, really enjoyed it. I had a great time watching the film.
I see.
Yeah, it's cheesy and all, but it was just so fun. Yeah, even with all the American scenes inserted where they remove most of the comedy and slow down the pace, it was still a very, very enjoyable movie. And while I haven't rewatched the John Beck cut since, it's one that I don't really harbor negative feelings toward,
Yeah,
unlike
and
a
I
lot
should
of fans.
I should probably establish this now before we go any deeper. We are
Yeah,
not going to be discussing the US version. We are going to be discussing the Japanese version because we're trying to stay true and review and discuss the originals of these prior
yeah.
to the big movie coming out at the end of the month. Um, so we won't be discussing the bastardization that the John Beck cut is. Listen, you cannot tell me that that cut is not garbage. It is absolute garbage.
I will acknowledge it is in almost every way the inferior version of the film, but I
It is
can't
absolutely the inferior version of the film. There's nothing good about it.
but I honestly can't help but really enjoy it.
I think you're wrong. We'll talk about that later.
But yeah, after that point, it wasn't until Criterion released a certain set with all the Showa Godzilla films where I finally saw the Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Hmm.
And, well, that transfer was interesting.
Yeah, so this is where I am going to get into a little bit of a. Oh, here's a fun fact for you. So today I tweeted out, "Oh my
Yeah,
God, the Criterion transfer is utter garbage." Literally, like they didn't even try to blend the two different transfers of the film together. It's a sharp cut. There's some
yeah,
frames missing out, and it's very clear. One is
yeah.
blurry, one is not. One is it's got a higher saturation, one's more mute. The
Mm.
entire final fight, it looks like I'm watching King of the Monsters. It's like all yellow.
Yeah, it's
It,
it's yellow and brown for the majority of
yeah.
the movie. And then the night scenes have the Godzilla 2014 problem of being too dark.
Yeah, and I will say, and I guess I'll give the Universal cut this. The transfer's good
Yeah.
because, like, I was watching him, like, oh my God, this isn't even the movie I remember. It's so colors are so horrible.
Yeah.
Uh, but I found
Yes.
out. So, and this is a little off topic, but it'll relate to the Criterion thing.
Yeah.
So I found out that we all know Criterion was given transfers. They weren't allowed to
Yeah.
transfer it themselves. It was their transfer.
Yeah.
Well, Media Blasters actually did the transfers themselves, apparently, for
Interesting.
their two Godzilla movies. They were sent film, and they were allowed to do their own transfer,
Hmm.
which is why it looks better than the
Hmm.
Criterion one, because they were transfers at that time, not
Hmm.
2009 cheap Blu-ray transfers. Score one for Media Blasters, Criterion Zippo.
Score two if you count packaging.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. But yeah, I found that interesting, and I figured I'd bring that up when we talked about the Criterion release of this
Yeah,
film.
it was
And also,
basically inevitable.
yeah. Also, just for anybody listening, if you want to watch this Japanese version, I recommend to go, or I don't recommend it, but it's the only way you can do this. So go out and buy the Godzilla, the Showa era 1954 through 1975 Blu-ray box set from Criterion. On disc number 8, they have the Japanese release version of King Kong versus Godzilla. It's the literal only good thing about the box set that's actually really good,
Yeah,
and even then they somehow screwed it up.
yeah. Shame we couldn't have gotten that beautiful 4K transfer.
Mhm.
It's
But
a
Rex,
damn
please
shame.
continue your history with the film now that we got the transfer ramble out of
But
the
yeah,
way.
uh, King Kong vs. Godzilla for me was the film that made me realize I really like the style of the Showa era Godzilla, especially the 60s, and just in general, kaiju films from the 60s. Though I do still really like 70s kaiju films and kaiju, and even like 70s Ultraman. It's something about the 60s, just something about it just clicks more with me. I don't know what it is. It's just maybe it's because of Eiji Tsuburaya, but I don't know, something about 60s Godzilla and 60s Ultraman, Ultra 7. Something about that just clicks more with me than
Well,
70s, 80s, 90s, and even 2000s.
remember that Tsuburaya only worked on King Kong versus Mothra versus Ghidorah and Astro Monster
Yeah, I know. Sadamasa Arikawa did Son of Godzilla and
and
Royal
Ebra
Monsters.
and Ebra.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are right.
true, I believe. I believe you're right there. Yeah.
Because when he founded and started really putting all of his effort to Ultra Q and Ultraman, which was in late '65, early '66, he basically was like, Toho, you do your own thing. You got a
Well,
plenty of people that
to be
can do the
fair,
job.
he was on set for Son of Godzilla fairly often. Like he's
Yeah,
the reason that Miller has the smoke rings.
yeah.
He's the one who suggested that idea.
Essentially, he became a executive producer who would come on set, give suggestions, and go.
Right. Uh, God damn it. What was I just said? God damn it. Okay, forget what I was going to say.
Okay. So, anything else to add to your history?
Not really. After yeah, I really liked the Japanese cut, but the Criterion transfer did really harm my first viewing. I get that it's
Sure.
not technically their fault, but still,
Still bad.
yeah. Just because it's not their fault doesn't mean I'm not going to criticize it.
Hmm. I guess I'll go ahead and get into my history with this film.
Yep.
So King Kong versus Godzilla was one of the first Godzilla films I actually watched. First was Terror of Mechagodzilla. Second was Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Third was Mothra versus Godzilla. Fifth, or first, yeah, fifth, right? Terror, Ghidorah, Mothra. Fourth. Fourth film was King Kong versus Godzilla. I watched it on the 1997, no, 1990. I believe it is, Good Times 35th Anniversary VHS with clamshell case.
Oh,
Um, that is the version I watched initially.
yeah.
Eventually, I would watch it on the 2005 DVD from
Hmm.
Universal. And later uh, on, on the 2014 Blu-ray from Universal, and then I saw the Japanese version about a year or two ago. Whenever the Criterion, so 2019, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
um, I saw it then. But to be
Yeah.
honest, I slept through the first showing because it was at like 3 in the morning. And the second showing, I wasn't, my attention span was bare minimum. So when I
Yeah.
watched it for this, it was almost like I was seeing it for the first time again.
Hmm.
So this was only my third time viewing this and my only time doing it fully,
Hmm.
um, as a Godzilla movie. It's still
Hmm.
very alien to me, so watching it was very interesting. And I'll get into my thoughts later on, whenever we get into that section. So I
Hmm.
overall, it's just King Kong versus Godzilla was one of the films that I grew up on, um,
Yeah.
and it's partially what made me a Godzilla fan.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's kind of my history with it.
Hmm.
So I guess now we'll go ahead and get into the production of this film.
Sure.
Um, just kind of discuss how it was made.
Yeah.
Briefly touch on the U.S. version. We're
Yeah.
not really going to get into it. Um,
Yeah.
we'll just talk about mainly Willis O'Brien, and then it
And
came
Beck.
over. Yeah, and good old Beck, always here to rip off some old guy
Yeah.
who's been screwed over by Hollywood.
Yep. Oh wait, that's just a normal day in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's true. And then of course we'll discuss the just some of the fun facts and whatnot. I
Yeah, there are a
personally,
couple interesting ones.
mhm. So I guess to get things started, we should really discuss how the film came to be.
Yes.
So you've seen King Kong, right?
Yeah. I
Okay,
have. It's been years since I've seen it, but I have seen it. Yes.
okay. So we all know they made a sequel.
Yeah,
Willis
Son of
O'Brien was
Kong.
very upset with that sequel. He didn't want to do that. He was forced to do it.
Hmm.
Um, and that was his big break after Lost World. And
Hmm.
Creation
Yeah.
got canceled. So here he was with four projects, three of which got realized, one of which
Wasn't there
didn't.
another project that also got canceled? I
That
don't
was later
remember.
on. That was later on.
Uh, uh,
I believe it was in the
it's-
40s whenever he was making Beast of Hollow Mountain. It was under a different title at that time, but it
hmm.
got canned.
Yeah, wasn't
Another
that
film.
Paramount?
Yes,
Uh,
yes, it was
yeah.
Paramount. And then he also was working on another RKO film in the late 30s, which got canceled. Uh,
Hmm.
Essentially, what happened was Willis O'Brien was most of his
Screwed over a
projects
lot,
never,
and it
yeah,
never got completed.
and really he didn't even start getting recognized until 1949 with Mighty Joe Young. But even
Yeah.
then, he just supervised it, and Ray
Yeah.
Harryhausen did it. But he did win
Yeah.
an Academy Award for that, so
Hmm.
at least he got that.
At
And
least he
then
got
he did,
something.
yeah, and then in '56 he did Irwin Allen's uh, The Animal World, but most of that was done by Ray Harryhausen.
Hmm.
Um, and then he worked with Allen again on The Lost World of the 1960 remake. But he kind of forced O'Brien not to use the stop motion, which really angered him.
And to instead abuse animals.
Yes. Throughout all of this, O'Brien was really getting screwed over. He was getting the short end of
Yeah.
the stick, and really he couldn't do a whole lot.
No.
So O'Brien was like, you know what? I'm going to show this world who's boss.
Hmm.
And so he wrote a story outline for a movie, King Kong versus the Ginkgo. It was a sequel to his film that he helped make in 1933. It went through rewrites, of course, King Kong versus Prometheus, King Kong versus
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. It went through a few story changes.
Yeah, and I believe they were done by the author of or the writer of them, as well as some other.
No, not
Really?
yet. Not yet. No. So
Oh, oh,
O'Brien made it,
oh,
and then Beck
yeah.
he went to Beck and he was like, "Hey, I got this story. I want to
Mm,
get it made." Beck
mm.
paid him money and said, "Buzz off, old man." Beck then went to
Meanwhile,
the guy who wrote them and had him rewrite it.
yeah.
Um, and then he couldn't get a company to do it, so he
Mm,
went to Toho.
mm.
And then
Went
Toho is
all
the
over the
one.
international market, to my understanding. I believe
To
he even went
my
to Italy.
understanding, I don't believe he did. If I remember right, he only did American companies, and then
Mm,
he was tipped to go to Toho because they might have been interested. And then he went to Toho, and Toho's like, sure. So they bought it from him. He agreed to be the producer on the U.S. version, and they went out, paid the money to get King Kong, and started producing the film after they hired Shinichi Sekasawa to rewrite the film to include the
yeah.
giant green lizard of madness, Godzilla, King of the
King of the
Monsters.
Monsters. Yeah. I'd actually heard or read that apparently he looked at some French, not French, Italian companies, but it didn't it didn't specifically name any. But that's interesting.
I've never heard that before.
It was in I believe it was Rifle's book, I think.
Hmm. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
And actually, so here's a fun fact. People who worked with RKO were the ones that told him to go to Toho. So RKO was kind of like, yeah, go. And it's because RKO worked with Toho for the Mysterians a few years
Oh,
prior.
I didn't actually know
They're the
that they were
ones.
involved in Mysteriums.
So Toho produced Mysterians, and then when they
Yeah.
were shopping it around for the international market, RKO picked it up, re-edited the
Ah,
film, and dubbed it.
okay.
So that's how they got involved, but they were
That's it.
involved nonetheless. But
Yeah.
because of that, they were like, go to Toho. Toho might be interested. Plus, we can get money. We don't have to spend money.
Yeah.
So, and Toho, like I said, they approved it, started working on it. Um, from what I've heard, it was a very large budget. Like they went all out to make it. Because it was Toho's 30th anniversary film.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently it was like some
Toho
big
was,
go big, go broke was something I heard in
yeah,
relation to the budget of King Kong vs. Godzilla.
yeah, that was from Khaled's book where Tanaka was like,
Yeah.
we're going to spend as much money as we can and we're going to make the biggest movie we've ever done. And it worked out. We'll
Yeah, oh,
talk about that
definitely.
later. We'll talk about that later, but it
Yeah,
worked out for him.
very much so.
And so they started working on the film. Tanaka was very, very excited to do King Kong. Super I was thrilled, though he was
Yeah.
disappointed they couldn't do stop motion.
Mm.
Um,
At least they got a
unfortunately,
little bit in.
that's true. Unfortunately, Tanaka's go big or go broke kind of fell through due to
Mm.
scheduling conflicts and
The
issues with
cost of King
budgets.
Kong.
They had to cut some corners.
Yeah.
They didn't go on. They were actually planning to go on
Mm.
location.
Yeah, to Sri Lanka, I believe,
hmm
is where they wanted
Um,
to, but apparently that plan was either because of or partially because of how much King Kong costed to get
well,
the
they
rights
weren't.
for it.
Yeah, they weren't expecting King Kong to be as much as he was. That was like a
Yeah.
quarter of the budget, if I remember right.
Hmm.
But because
Ooh,
of that, um, they had to cut budgets on location shooting. The
yeah.
suits and sets got budgets cut because of
Mm,
that, which is why King Kong doesn't look good.
mm,
Um, the King Kong suits really where they had to
yeah.
lessen their budget. Um, and and a lot of people do say that King Kong's suit looks awful.
Yeah.
So I think
Especially King
that's
Kong fans.
yeah. A lot of King Kong fans disown the Toho films.
Yeah,
Um,
they're
so
missing out.
so yeah, I think that's where the budget cut took the biggest hit was the Kong suit because I feel like
Yeah,
that was I know Super Raya wasn't too thrilled with the final product.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I believe they had about they had like two or three designs that weren't approved, and then before Subaraya approved the one that got turned into the suit.
mhm,
Like one of them was apparently looked too cutesy or
mhm,
cuddly, from what I hear.
mhm.
So yeah.
Not to mention Tezuka's failure at mm, listening to Subaraya.
Mm.
Because Tezuka, the guy who played King Kong, he was told to go study gorillas at a zoo.
Hirose, not Tezuka.
No,
Shoichi Hirose. You're thinking of Masaki Tezuka, who saw the
oh
film.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You got that confused there.
Well, no, Tezuka played Godzilla partially.
Katsumi. Oh, I thought you were talking about Masaki Tezuka.
No, see, you got mixed up.
Hmm, yeah.
That was a big
Apparently,
movie.
Katsumi Tezuka is only seen in this film as the iceberg scene.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so Hiroshi was told, "Hey, go study gorillas.
Yeah,
Study how they move." Because Tsuburaya told not Honda, Nakajima the same thing. He was like,
yeah.
"Go study at the zoo," and Nakajima listened. Nakajima was very honest and very
Hmm.
respectful to Tsuburaya. Well, Hiroshi was like, "No, I don't need to do that. I know what I'm doing." Um, and it kind of showed. Kong does not move like a gorilla.
Yeah, and there's just it's hard to put into words, but there's just less energy, less character to the Kong performance.
Hmm.
It's there's some there, but it feels the performance feels almost lifeless in certain scenes.
It does. It does. I think Nakajima's performance because it was Nakajima who played him in 67, right?
Yeah,
I think Nakajima's performance looks better,
better. Yeah,
even though the suit's worse.
yeah.
Uh,
Was apparently also disappointed in Hirose's performance as well,
oh
alongside
yeah.
Subaraya,
And
which is
now,
interesting.
granted, Super Riot did end up. I think it was after. It was after Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, I believe, where Super Riot realized that uh, Hiroshi wasn't doing what he was supposed to, and he fired him.
Hmm,
Um, it was either that or it was War of the Gargantuas. I
hmm.
don't remember.
Something like
Um,
that. It was definitely around 64 to 66 ish.
yeah.
Probably
Um,
65.
but he fired him because he was lying. Because he told Tsuburaya, "Yeah, I went to the zoo. I did what you told me to." Which when he found out that was a lie, he was gone. Um, and yeah, Nakajima wasn't too fond of him, and Tsuburaya most certainly wasn't.
To be fair to Hirose, when it came to the climax of King Kong vs. Godzilla, like with the battle scenes, no, they didn't really know what to do for the choreography, not even Tsuburaya. So Nakajima and Hirose had to more or less came up with the
Well,
choreography.
well, that was kind of normal towards the end of the '60s too.
Yeah, yeah,
According to Nakajima, they choreographed the entire fight sequence for Destroyer Monsters themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and they didn't, and there wasn't really a lot of detail to the fights until I believe Gigan, the
mhm,
script.
mhm. It was really left up just to the special effects director and the suit actors to decide.
Yeah,
Um, which I
yeah,
think it's remarkable how well they did, and I really want
yeah.
to. Whenever we get to kind of the background and the meanings of this film, I really want to
Mm,
go back on the fight choreography and really discuss it because it adds something to the
mm,
overall message of the film.
mm.
Um, and I think before, because I think we've kind of pretty well discussed all the special effects and kind of the production here. Unless you had anything else you want to mention,
Uh,
I've got one last thing.
that was more or less the main points I wanted to bring up.
There's one last one that we need to
Yeah.
because it's just people are going to be left hungry if they don't hear this fact.
Okay, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Um, it's just it really just sucks you right into it when you hear it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you
some
can't talk about
people
this film without bringing that up.
ink themselves when they hear about this
And we had enough
slimy
we had enough
joke,
comments at the
slimy,
beginning.
yeah, slimy fact. Um, but yeah, so the octopus Odaku, this was his
Yeah.
first appearance in the Toho films, but not his
Hmm.
last.
Yeah.
Um, while he was brought to life with a puppet and stop motion, they also used three octopus
Yeah.
size
Octopi.
octopi
Octopi.
in the film.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, they could not put at the end of this film. No animals were harmed during or
Mhm.
throughout the production of this film because one of these octopi met the fate of being on Super Raya's plate that evening.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
also, we should address the fact that they used a new technique this time for some of the
Oh, no.
shots. Projection with projecting footage on the screen and then throwing, putting stuff in front of it. Not a flawless technique, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
Um, I mainly think of it whenever they're throwing the torches at the octopus, and you can see the
Mm.
shadow also
Yeah.
hitting. So
Yeah.
not
The
the
compositing
best.
is probably the weakest aspect of the film's effects for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The compositing is not, though there's one shot in particular where
Hmm.
Godzilla is standing in the middle of the screen and it's
Yeah.
obvious that the set ran off, so they composited some trees in the foreground and it does look
Hmm.
very good. It reminded me of the shot in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster where Godzilla falls in the water and they superimpose some trees to cover up the edge of the set there.
I think I noticed that one actually. I don't think I noticed that.
I noticed a lot of those.
Hmm.
Also, I will say the Criterion set's known for having some issues with the compositing. Um, so that's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
But
true.
the projection effect I thought was lackluster.
Yeah,
Worst part of the film, I think, when it comes to special effects.
yeah,
And then Slimy Kong just looks wrong. And Butt Kong. It looks wrong. Very
yeah.
wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong.
That weird head that they use for the close-ups is so strange to look at. It's kind of like the 84 Cybot, but worse
Hmm.
in how it looks,
Yeah.
and not as big.
Mhm. Though because they actually based the Kong off of one of the designs from 33. It was the long face one.
Hmm.
Which was I think it was the larger miniature or stop
Hmm.
motion Big Cat.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure though.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's the one thing I would say. But
Hmm.
the sets I think look great. The
Oh yeah.
pagoda, the pagoda at the end is flawless. Well,
Hmm.
the entire Mount Fuji fight's well made, I think.
Yeah, and also a lot of the other scenes too have really good, fairly lively sets too, compared
Hmm.
to some other uh films, especially those from the Heisei, where cities feel kind of like ghost towns.
Hmm.
Sure, you could pull the evacuation excuse, but shouldn't there be more cars around at least?
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's also very colorful. If you have a good transfer, it's a colorful film, which I think it's nice to have.
Yeah.
So I guess we can talk about the score, and then we'll talk about the characters, and then we'll really talk about the messages of the film.
Hmm.
'Cause to me, at least to me, the messages and the story of the film is more unique than any other aspect.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd agree with you there.
So Ifukube's best work in the Showa era, agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all we have to say.
Although honorable
Um,
second place to Mothra vs. Godzilla.
no,
You're wrong.
54 in Terror.
Eh, I'll give you leeway with 54.
Terror's got a very memorable soundtrack.
I'd need to listen to it again.
But I love the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
this is by far probably Ifukube, my favorite score from Ifukube, like
mhm.
overall.
The Islanders chant is amazing. Godzilla
Yeah.
appears. I love the dun, dun, dun,
Dun,
dun,
dun,
dun.
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
It's iconic for a reason.
Hmm. And then it's just great score, great score.
Hmm.
I think
Un-
that's
unlike
about.
unlike a certain American re-edit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Where they I'm not going to get into that. That'll be another episode.
Yeah,
It's
a
hard because it's
discussion for
like
another day.
it's hard because it's like there's so much we could say, but because
Hmm.
we're sticking to the Japanese one, we gotta cut it right
Hmm.
as it get into a
Yeah.
rant about how awful the American edit is. Um, so I guess we can get into this now. The human characters, and this will lead over into the messages of the story.
Yeah.
Um, what did you think of our human protagonist this time around?
Well, the standout is quite. I'm sure everyone can more or less agree on this. Is Mr. Taco
I
the
love him.
the very very eccentric pharmaceutical? Uh, was he he wasn't the boss, but
Head of marketing, I think.
yeah, yeah, I think that's what he is. Yeah, he's such a he's just such a fun character, and there's there's something about the actor. I know. I think it was either Calla or Rifle's book. I think that mentioned. I think it was Rifle's book that mentioned how Miss how Mr. Taco's actor has a strange aura to him that is
Hmm.
just very charming, very endearing, and just really, really entertaining.
Yeah. and it's
It, it,
Ichiro Arashima. That's his name.
yeah, it's a very it's a character that could have easily been played as like a generic bad guy, but I think the silliness of the performance is kind of what makes makes his screen presence more enjoyable, but more impactful too.
Yeah,
And
but
he's just a bumbling idiot rather than an actual antagonist.
I think the reason for why he's such a memorable character plays into the messages of the story and
Yeah,
the political statement being made. I think that's really what gives him his character. Is
yeah,
he's so stupid because they're trying to make him represent the capitalism, business person market.
yeah,
So dumb that they don't even consider what they should have been considering from the start,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, Mr.
Uh
Taco is incredibly short-sighted. All he's trying to do is to just get publicity for his company, and he has no concern for the logistics of his methods. He's just like, oh, there's this god of sorts on Faroe Island. My coin says it could be real, so let's go get him.
mhm. And I mean, even throughout the film, he's like, let's bet. I bet
Yeah,
Kong's gonna win.
yeah,
Whenever they ask him who he's like, my company represents King Kong,
yeah,
and it's just like, God, what's the matter? I mean, he's told to take Kong back, and he
yeah.
freaks
And he
out.
thinks,
Yeah, and also I gotta point this out. In the Japanese version, it says that the company or whoever takes responsibility for Kong will have to pay for anything he does. That
yeah,
pharmaceutical company's out of business.
yeah.
Lawsuits impending. Taco's gonna be seeing some jail time.
I mean, Sakurai's probably gonna be involved in those lawsuits, given what happened to his sister.
That's true. That's true. And isn't that why he faints? Is like he realizes that he's about to get fined and
Yeah,
thrown into jail, and they
yeah,
completely forget about it when Kong goes
yeah.
crazy.
Hmm. And I'm pretty sure in the American version they say that they just blankly say, "Oh, we're not going to let you bring King Kong into Japan."
Well, they say that in the Japanese version, they say King Kong.
They kind of do, but with this one, with the Japanese cut, it more comes off that the responsibility of the company is sort of what makes Mr. Taco faint. Whereas in the
Right,
American version, it's just, oh, he can't bring Kong into Japan. Thanks.
right. Which I think is worse. Because I
Yeah,
like in the Japanese version, they say this is considered smuggling, so criminal
yeah,
charges. You got to pay for all the damages he's done, or
yeah,
take responsibility for him. He
mm,
cannot step foot, or in this case, float into Japanese waters.
mm,
This is all your fault, and we're stopping you now.
yeah,
And that's why, and I think that gives him more character, instead of this stupid person that faints after being told, no, Kong can't go into Japanese waters. Um,
yeah.
they are like, you're getting criminal charges, you're getting fined, you're in trouble, he can't come to Japan.
Mm.
And I think that's better. It gives him more character.
Yeah, and it suits better with the film's message too.
Hmm. Which,
Where,
no, I'll
whereas
get
the
into that
American
here.
one is just sort of a bit more surface level of can't come to Japan. There's no because that's dumb.
Yeah.
Whereas at least there's some actual purpose to that scene in the Japanese cut, a point to it.
Hmm. And I really like Sakurai and the other main
Yeah,
protagonists.
Furue.
Their banter back and forth. felt
Hmm.
better and less just stupid.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
those two actors worked together, or well, had already worked together a lot on comedies.
right. And I should probably establish why, because 54 was very serious, Raids
Yeah.
Again, very serious, 33, very serious, Son of Kong, serious. The
Hmm.
reason why King Kong versus Godzilla was a comedy was because it was Toho's big 30th anniversary film. They
Yeah.
wanted to make a lot of money. They wanted to just go all the way. And Toho was very successful with their comedy films, such as the Crazy
Yeah.
Cats franchise. And
Yeah.
so, King Kong vs. Godzilla was a comedy to attract more people.
Hmm.
It worked.
Oh, definitely. Box office has anything to say about that.
Hmm. But yeah, and at the end of the day, all the characters in the film are supposed to be comedic.
Yeah.
Even the monsters, they're supposed to come off as comedic and
To
funny.
to the dismay of Ishiro Honda.
Right.
Apparently some of the Subaraya went so full in that even some of the technicians thought he was going a little too far with the humanization of the monsters.
It gives them character. I really
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, same here. But
You know, this
that's just something interesting to think about.
which no, I'm trying to save a lot of this for the messages in the story, so I'm trying to not talk a whole lot. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's a lot of fun characters in the film, and I think that really helps the movie overall stay entertaining and not become boring
Yeah.
because everybody's doing something that's, exciting or funny that brings the characters into the film.
Hmm.
Oh, also, this is one of the only Showa Godzilla films to keep continuity, just pointing that out.
Yeah. Since Godzilla comes out of the iceberg
And they referred that this isn't the first time he's been around. So
in the
they
Japanese cut.
right. Again, another reason why the US cut's awful. Um, so props to them for keeping continuity.
Yeah. Props to Sekizawa, I guess.
hmm Should we go ahead and get into the messages of the film and kind of wrap things up now?
Yeah.
All right. Um, do you want to go first since I've been running this entire time?
All right. So, yeah, King Kong vs. Godzilla from start to finish is a satire
hmm
of not only capitalism but most notably Japanese television and specifically lowbrow television and the just the marketing hype that there was surrounding that. Given, I believe it was only very recently that Japan had gotten, or at least gotten wide access to cable television.
Basically, what Superia became after Bandai bought them.
I mean, I guess you could kind of replace the pharmaceutical company with Bandai and the science show with
Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Yeah. But one thing I find interesting is throughout the film, it's very self-aware.
Oh
Like
yeah,
at the beginning, when Taco gets angry that Godzilla's a thing, they say, "There's even a movie." And it's like,
yeah,
wow, you are so self-aware right now.
yeah,
And they're like, no more. I'm sick of Godzilla. It's it's so it's so weird to have a Godzilla movie that self-aware.
yeah. And then there's that one when after they've captured King Kong and like Taco's celebrating about the discovery and he's getting ready to go see Sakurai and Furue, uh, and how all the news articles are talking about it. There's a woman that talks about what if King Kong and Godzilla fought, And there's a guy who says something like, "Don't be stupid. This isn't a wrestling match."
Yeah, and there's a ton of those throughout the film that are like, this isn't wrestling, yet
Yeah,
it ends up as a wrestling match. They choreograph like wrestlers.
yeah,
And even throughout the film, you can see military people, people that work for the pharmaceutical company, Taco, people are betting on who will win, King
yeah.
Kong or Godzilla. And it's
I mean,
so weird to see that.
Taco does do the coin flip all the time.
He does. And he's like, don't lose, King Kong. He'll make a monkey out of Godzilla yet. The amount of self-awareness in the film just blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's very ironic now knowing how Godzilla vs. Kong is being advertised.
Yeah.
It's really, I know this isn't like any original statement about it, but like as people have said, just the irony that King Kong vs. Godzilla was about all the commercialization of the two characters, and then we have Godzilla vs. Kong, where we have Australian burgers promoting the film.
Hmm.
I believe a pizza company recently was promoting it.
Yeah.
This this is supposed to be the big match, big the big crossover event of the decade.
Hmm.
But the
I
first,
remember during the Super Bowl, the official Twitter was like at Snickers, at Tom Brady, at all these like,
yeah,
which team are you on? And it's just like, oh, the irony. This is
yeah,
exactly what they were saying don't do in the
yeah,
original.
and that's what's so funny about Godzilla vs Kong to me.
I mean, Godzilla King of the Monsters was pro nuclear, so why not be pro lowbrow entertainment and marketing at this point?
Disrespecting our original 101.
Yeah, how to disrespect 65 years of history?
It's a
Godzilla
weird
King of the
trend in
Monsters.
American Godzilla movies.
That's
98.
true.
The only one that is actually kind of respectful is 2014, the second time round. So who knows?
First is the worst, second is the best.
Maybe when we get Godzilla vs Kong 2050 by, I don't know, Universal maybe, or Disney. God help us. Um, maybe by then we'll actually get one that respects the original's message.
Right?
If we're lucky.
That'd be nice. But yeah, it just, and this is where I wanted to discuss Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
I don't know because it looks like it's going to be a typical blockbuster.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very like from the first trailer alone, you can really see that you can see where they're going with it.
Hmm. I will say this: both it looks like GVK will respect the sense of it's going to be bonkers.
Yeah.
That's going to be about it. It look
Yeah.
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm calling it now. People are going to say GVK respects the original 1962 one because it has callbacks to the film. And they're
Yeah.
going to completely ignore the message of the original. I call it right now.
Oh yeah,
Guarantee it.
definitely. So I guess you could say it's a faithful adaptation of the American cut.
Shallow and plot holes galore and pretty
Yeah.
lackluster, all things considered. And a not Ifukube score. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Oh no, I feel like I just predicted everything that'll happen. If we do a GVK thoughts bonus or something, I'm going to be calling back to this episode a lot, and I'm
Oh
going to be
yeah.
like, I was right. I was wrong. This movie's
Mm.
awful.
Hmm.
Just like that. That's going to be the whole episode.
God, it'll be interesting to see.
Right. But overall, I think KKVG stands out the most.
Hmm.
Honestly, I would say it stands out the most in the Showa era because of the message. It's the only one that's satirical. It's the only one that's a comedy, like through and through a comedy. It's the only one that's self-aware to the extent it is.
Yeah.
And we never got another Godzilla movie like that, which kind of interests me.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's because by now Godzilla has become the thing that King Kong versus Godzilla was criticizing.
Yeah. More or less.
Because Shin Godzilla only had multiple forms because Bandai.
Yeah.
So Bandai's always in consideration when creating these films, marketing purposes,
Well, more or
theme
less
park
any
rides.
Tokusatsu at this point, or any big
Well,
Tokusatsu, I
big,
guess.
yeah, big one. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's just because they ignored the critique in this film and they just did it.
Hmm.
That's actually a good thing I think to put a pin in and note is how Godzilla has become what this very film was saying was bad.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you get more and more sequels.
That's true. That's very true. I wonder if there's a sequel to the movie in King Kong versus Godzilla. Who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe they made a King Kong versus Godzilla movie. Um, wait, I just realized that means Godzilla movies are canon in the Showa era.
Well, they never go into detail what the Godzilla movie is about, so
That's so weird. That's so weird.
I mean, remember, Showa Godzilla movies were almost in 2014.
That's true. That's very true.
So,
And there were Godzilla movies in 20th Century Boys and Sayonara Jupiter. Random Tokusatsu reference from me. Ding.
interesting.
So I feel like we're getting to the point where we've really because we discussed GVK, we discussed the messages, the soundtrack, the characters. We've kind of discussed pretty much everything, haven't we?
More or less.
I guess we can end on our thoughts on the film overall.
All right.
I'd like to think we've been mostly taking this objectively, and now we're just going to be like,
Yeah.
here's our film critic thoughts on this film.
Hmm. Well, film critics in quotation marks.
I'm a film critic. My Mystery Science Theater crow pin says so.
All right. So, what are your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts? Well, for a long time, I didn't care for King Kong versus Godzilla. I always found it very lackluster, very boring, very stupid, didn't make a lot of sense. And
Hmm.
then I watched the Japanese version, and it definitely moved up quite a few rankings for me. Overall, I thoroughly enjoy the film. I think it's a standout to the franchise. Um, I forgot to say this, and we've been hinting at it the entire time. It is the most attended Godzilla movie in
Oh yeah,
history.
yeah.
Um, Huge box office success. Got
Hmm.
re-released a total of four times, um,
Really? Hmm.
including its original theatrical run. So you had the 1970 champion theatrical,
That interesting one. That
which is what ruined the film for us because they used the original negatives. Thank you so much,
hmm.
Honda.
Yeah.
Um, then you had in 1976, they reissued it once more to
Hmm.
go in line with the
A certain
1976
remake.
King Kong. And then in 2017, when they released the 4K version, it's
Oh
had four
yeah. Oh yeah.
re-releases. Um,
Hmm.
And I
I,
think
I'd
this
love
film,
I'd love to get a figure for the I'd love to get the exact attendance figure for the original release, like not including any
I mean,
re-releases.
I can. Mm, the number's out there somewhere, probably.
Yeah, because I've had that issue with 54 and
Hmm.
yeah, because like if you look at Mothra vs Godzilla and I think also Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, its attendance, it's
Hmm.
got like an overall attendance of about 8 million,
Yeah.
but that is including the re-releases.
Hmm. I could
Its
always check
actual
my.
is like I think around half of that. So
Yeah.
that's
I could
something
always
that
40th anniversary book, but it might have
hmm,
the overall attendance, including the
I think
Kaiju
it does.
Mastery.
I think it does.
But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I mean, it was very successful.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it makes sense why it did. Uh,
Hmm.
I I enjoy the film for what it is. I enjoy the satire. I enjoy the comedy. It's a sharp contrast to the entire franchise as a whole, and I'd even say the genre. Um,
Yeah.
that being said,
Because
it's not my favorite.
for a genre that is condescended as a rather silly and lowbrow type of thing, it's kind of humorous that we don't get many straight up comedies
Yeah. Um,
outside of a select few.
I can only, I mean, when you think about it, most comedies are like Kaiju Mono or
Death Kappa,
Death Kappa or even
Gehara.
Riga, where it's to the point where it's more of a parody
Yeah,
and not a satire.
yeah.
We don't get a lot of satire comical films. We get more parody than anything else. And even Ultraman, you had the Zerth parody chapter.
Yeah.
So it is unique for the genre, which is kind of strange. The only film I can think of that's kind of like that is Colossal, but even it's very shallow compared to this one.
Mm.
I love the message. I
Yeah.
think it's a really cool because Mothra versus Godzilla also tackled it, but it was more in your face, just kind of like, oh, this is bad, and it wasn't playing with it. And I think that's why it's superior to than Mothra versus Godzilla.
Mm.
Um,
It's interesting because it's kind of funny you say that because Mothra vs. Godzilla, a few of the ideas from that came from continuation King Kong vs. Godzilla,
right.
the unmade
Oh,
sequel to
it was King
this.
Kong versus Godzilla 2 continuation, I
Yeah.
think.
But yeah, because in the in the idea for that, Godzilla was going to be dead. So wonder who lost. He was going to be dead, and a company was going to use his. They're going to use his body for, I want to say, an
Hmm.
amusement park attraction.
Yes.
But then he was good. But then when King Kong came back, they decided to revive him to fight
Hmm.
King Kong.
Which I have some theories that they took some of those story elements from continuation King Kong versus Godzilla 2, and put them in GVK, but we'll have to see. It's mainly with the
Yeah,
kid, with Kong adopting the kid.
yeah. When I was reading about that, that was like, hmm, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Wonder if they
But
took notes there or not.
we'll have to check that out whenever the film comes out. Um, but overall, it's not my personal favorite. I'd even say it's not in my top 10. Um,
Hmm.
but it's a good film, and I definitely plan on rewatching it. Not with the Criterion transfer though, because that gives me brain aneurysm. Trying to watch that. Um, I can't stand that, so I will be watching
Yeah.
it through other means. Um, It's just so bad. I can't sit through it. I cannot.
Yeah, it's an unfortunately, it's a good movie made hard to watch by a terrible, terrible transfer.
Mhm. So Rex, what are your thoughts on this film?
It's not one of my favorite Godzilla movies, but it's one that I definitely I don't have any bad feelings towards it. I look at it and just think of I just get a good feeling from it. It's a lot of fun. It's what it's what made me interested, really, really interested in watching the rest of the Showa era, and as well as that, revisiting a lot of the Godzilla films I hadn't seen in years.
Hmm.
It really revitalized my interest in the franchise. And when I saw the US cut, and then the Japanese cut, despite the terrible transfer, it really is surprising seeing how different they are tonally, because even though both have comedy, the way they go about their comedy, the different styles of comedy they use, it's rather fascinating to see.
Hmm. I agree.
It almost makes you think they kind of condescend American audiences too.
Well, actually, there is a. I'm happy you say that. There is a way that people read the film as this. King Kong
Mhm.
represents the West, an invader,
Yeah,
not belonging, drug addict,
yeah.
strong brute force, very smart, tactical, while
Hmm.
Godzilla is a primitive, small brain, stupid, just evil person in his homeland. And some people have, at least in the US version, they've read it as Godzilla represents Japan and Kong represents America, and Kong overtakes Japan and or Godzilla and wins, uh,
Yeah,
symbolizing what happened at the end of World War II potentially.
yeah. Personally, I see it as people overthinking Honda's films a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it was that.
Hmm.
It might have been that in the US version, maybe.
Hmm. I,
Um,
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the idea of being America versus Japan was there, but nowhere near as much as like, oh, drug addicted, this like
mhm,
like that just makes me kind of laugh a bit because it just sounds so out there and so far removed from not only the tone this movie was going for, but the tone of what Sekizawa and Honda usually go for
mhm.
in their films.
Yeah, I agree. And even then, Sekuzawa never does serious stuff. It's usually
Yeah,
Honda that's the one that does it.
yeah,
So I feel like this is a good stopping point. I feel like we've
yeah.
well dove into this awesome film.
Mm,
The two Titanic terrors, trash Japan,
mm.
and now for our lowbrow marketing, Rex.
Yes.
Where can people find you at?
Well, on YouTube, I am Rex Xeno, 700 subs. So if you're interested, check that out. Go subscribe. Make my day better. On Twitter, I am Rex underscore Xenomorph. On Instagram, Rex underscore Xeno. And last but not least, please feel free to check out my blog site, thatkaijublog.wordpress.com. I've written a few articles about the production of various Godzilla films from Son of Godzilla to 84. Currently working on another Showa film that I briefly mentioned slightly earlier in this, and really looking forward to getting more into that. So I can't wait to actually get into the writing part of that. And I've done some interviews on there. So again, feel free to check it out. Make my day better.
And you can find me. Hi, I'm Elijah, the guy that runs this thing. I feel very
Don't know
self-aware
who.
now that we just talked about like marketing and like how lowbrow and all that, and then it's just like, oh, I feel so self-aware. Why do you
Yeah.
gotta call me out like that, self-conscious? But you can find me on YouTube at ET13 Productions, on Twitter at ET13 Productions, on Instagram at ET13 Productions. You can also follow my personal account where I post whatever's going on in my head. That's why it's called The Mind of Elijah Thomas, because it's whatever's up here, whatever is I'm thinking of. And that's at E Thomas 1975.
Hmm.
Um, so moving on. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people, just like what Taco wants us to do. Get us out to more people. Boost our ratings. We need a
Man,
monster. A monster, I
man.
tell you.
You should find a new god, take him from some natives, make him your own, get him to
Yeah.
smile like Taco can get King Kong to.
Yeah, I think that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, I don't, you can tweet us and follow us at KAIJU_CONVERS on Twitter. If you don't have either of those, you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram and contact us through those means. If you're like me before podcasting, lucky you. And you don't have any social media, you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. And we'll read your reviews on air for everybody to hear. We also have some merchandise on Teespring. It's just the logo. Eventually, we'll get some original artwork on there. I don't know when, just eventually. If you'd like to chat with me or Rex or anyone to hear their opinions on different subjects, you can join our Discord server and you can talk to people who relate to the stuff you like. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell so you can be notified anytime we upload. Sometimes we do YouTube exclusive like Toku Fandom Tales or our bonus episodes, or just watch our old catalog of episodes. All that can be found there. A huge thanks to Rex. Thank you, Rex, for editing these episodes. It's very appreciated. All
You're
of the stuff
welcome.
we've mentioned can be found in the description below through Linktree links. So please check out all of that if possible. And please, everybody, remember that life's too short to not talk big. And please, don't let King Kong make a monkey out of you.